if somebody wants to buy from you now, shut up, give them a contract. But people will keep proving and trying to show because that's their point of view and they're not reading and they haven't proactively thought, how does this person really want to be sold to and when do I shut up?
Yes. Stop selling past the close. Remember, you have, if you're doing it right, years and years to show all the additional value that you have. Pull all the tricks out of the bag, wow them over and over and over again. Don't try and dump it all into one discovery call.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Marketing Blender Show. I'm Dacia.
And I'm Daisy.
Now, we had promised that we were going to get specific this month. So last week, we were talking about how B2B marketing works for industrial companies. And this week, we are shifting to how B2B marketing works for professional services, which is so fun because we are one. So this is highly personal for us. And so I'm really excited to share what we've learned the hard way and also what we've learned and leveraged from all of the research and just the day-to-day work. So this is cool.
Yes, and all of the clients that we have in professional services industries.
So
I know
many.
15 years I've been working with consultants and coaches and professional service providers. We have had so many of them as clients at the Marketing Blender, and they're some of our favorites because they're always such smart people. And
so smart.
They are providing an immense level of value to their customers, and they're willing to learn and think and change and grow.
Yeah, and I think you said two words that really are like the best introduction to this is so smart. So basically, professional services are selling the fact that they're smart. They're selling their smarts. And that's a tricky sale to say, oh, I'm so good. What's locked in the cranium that you cannot see, but you just have to trust me that I'm smart enough to figure out that thing that's scaring you to death. So I think that's really tricky. But you also said the word value. And I think it's worth diving into, okay, let's define value for a second because we see professional service companies really get tripped up with this. Like I like to joke that they're too smart for their own good. And so they never stop to think, is my definition of my value the real value that people decided when they decided to hire me? And oftentimes we see that as a different definition.
Professional services companies often think, well, it's obvious. Nope, it's never obvious, or you wouldn't need any marketing at all, ever. So professional services companies do sell a service, not a tangible product, and that service is often intellectual in nature. Often what we find is they don't understand that value is always defined by the customer. You don't get to decide what has value to them. They get to decide 100% of the time, no exceptions. And this can be very frustrating because you and I and our clients in professional services companies can clearly look at an organization that we could bring immense value to and serve and transform, but they don't always get it.
Yeah.
So you have to meet people where they are and take them on a journey with you when it comes to uncovering the value of what you do. One of the things I find very interesting about professional services companies, like fractional and outsourced consultants, like HR consultants, fractional CFOs, is so often what they're up against is not other consultants and other experts, but DIY. And this is especially true for small to mid-sized businesses. The CEO or another executive within the organization thinks, oh, well, I can do that piece too. So for example, a CEO of a small business may not understand that their greatest cost, risk, and opportunity is associated with their people, and they need a real HR expert to help them with that and not take it on as a DIY because those things are not equivalent. And if you're looking at a fractional chief financial officer, that's not the same thing as hiring a bookkeeper or an accountant or having a controller in your business. It's an entirely different level. So people who are extremely skilled and highly expert are often up against people thinking that what they offer is really just a much lower level skill.
That is such a great point because how I like to think about it is that sometimes your customer is wrong, right? So they think they need this thing or they think X is the problem and you're like, no, N and P and Q and ABC are your problem. That had nothing to do with what's really happening. But we end up being burdened by the curse of knowledge. So we can't remember what it feels like to be in that situation where the symptom is the only thing the potential client sees, or their immediate emotion around it, or their preconceived notions like bookkeeping or having a controller versus having a chief financial officer. Perfect example that it's such a paradigm shift that they don't know what they don't know. And when very smart people are bringing very smart ideas to the table, there can actually create this gap that will scare potential clients away because they haven't learned that what you're saying is what they need and what they want. And so I think that's super important. When you said meet people where they're at, absolutely critical, because they are defining the value and you have to believe them and you have to go ahead and meet them there.
And one of the ways that professional services companies can find that value is not just looking at what they know now and what they can offer now and what they can do now, but what was their own journey to get there? Remembering, like you said, what was it like to not know this stuff, to not get this stuff? That's actually where you're going to start delivering the most value early, is helping your customers and your prospects take those initial steps in the right direction.
Yeah, and sometimes it's as simple, not easy, but as simple as mirroring their experience of their current environment right now. And then, shh. You don't need to go into education mode yet. There's a time and a place, but when you said you have to lead them on a journey, starting the journey and taking one step at a time, not this huge quantum leap into knowledge land, is so, so valuable to the person that you're selling to because it builds trust. And ironically, it'll feel like you're slowing down in order to speed up, but meeting them there helps them to be curious about what you want or what you offer and what they want, and to keep going, to not get lost in no decision or overwhelm or anything like that.
Yes, overwhelming people with too much information always breaks trust.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to shift a little bit because we're talking about messaging, basically. And one of the other things that we see is super smart people have a tendency to say the same exact thing as their competitors. And so we see a lot of commoditization in professional service companies. And you brought up a great example when we were prepping for this, where you were talking about managed service providers or, supplemental IT providers in that type of arena. And it is perceived as a commodity by most buyers, and it's very overwhelming for people. And we see these MSPs say the same thing over and over and over, and they don't cross the chasm. So talk to me about what's happening there and how do you fix that?
Sure. So I remember having a conversation with the CEO of an MSP last year, and I said, I need you to tell me what's different about your business. And you're not allowed to say we have 24/7 service. You're not allowed to say our customer service is excellent. You're not allowed to say anything about keeping their data secure. And I rattled off like 5 or 6 things. You're not allowed to say any of those things. And he just sat there and he was like, we're in trouble, aren't we? I was like, yes, you are. Because if your differentiation is not actually different from what everybody else is saying, it's not going to get you anywhere. You don't have a brand position. You don't have a point of view. You don't have a perspective. And you don't have anything for your prospects to anchor onto, to even remember who you are versus your competition. And one thing I will say is that not every professional service provider does have a strong differentiation. You might just be the local folks who are good at that particular thing. And in that case, you may have to play the tactics game. And you better get really, really good at digital marketing, because professional services is a very, very crowded space.
Absolutely. And it does challenge you to, again, think about what your particular customer values, and is there an intersection with something unique and just true about you. Like, I'll give you an example. There are certain clients that are just more likable than others. Am I allowed to say that? But it's true. And when that's your culture, when you are funny or quirky or enjoyable or optimistic or whatever, people enjoy that. And so while it doesn't feel like a great differentiator, depending on your market, that might be exactly what they need in their everyday environment. And it can be a huge differentiator and brand builder. Same thing can go to what we believe, what we fight against, what we fight for. So that values alignment, that humanity, sometimes that's enough, because it's very powerful when you really nail it to be different, where if you know your group really does use their dollars to vote on their values, or they're saying, I choose you because that's the world I believe in, and you're the kind of people that I believe in, and I feel good about doing business with you because I'm contributing to something beyond just the service that you're providing. So I think you know, in a commoditized market, or even a perceived commoditized market where there's value that the customer doesn't really want to understand, you got to return to the roots of human connection and just think about, like, how do we serve people well? And maybe it's not about your knowledge.
One thing that professional services organizations should look at if they are in a commoditized market is being the best at their referral marketing. Oh. So I'll tell a little story, and it's not directly in the professional services industry, but it's in a very, very commoditized industry, which is roofing. So there is a roofing company that I know, and many years ago, they decided that they were no longer going to do door knocking. And they weren't going to chase the storms. They were not going to go door to door asking people if they could inspect the roof after the hail. No more of that. We're not going to do that anymore. And they took those resources in that time, and they started educating insurance brokers, commercial banks that are being asked to, fund new roofs. They stopped marketing to their target customers, and they started marketing to their referral partners. And they've been like number one in their industry, in their local market, year after year, because they found out how they could actually be different to the people to whom it mattered. And that was their referral partners, not the end customers.
By this point, you guys have figured out that both Daisy and I are chief marketing officers, but what you might not realize is there's a whole team of us at the Marketing Blender, and we also have outsourced marketing teams. So if you're curious about how we break revenue plateaus, how we untangle sticky messaging, and how we make sure to drive exciting return on investment and profitable growth, check us out at themarketingblender.com. But it's not just for mid-market companies. We've also figured out how to scale it down for small businesses too.
The Marketing Blender Lab is our program just for small businesses looking to hit their first $1 million in revenue. You still get to work with a real chief marketing officer, and we use the same structures and systems that work to grow big businesses to help you meet and exceed your goals.
So again, if you're interested, check out themarketingblender.com. See you there. So often, your real buyer persona is not your buyer. It is the person that your buyer trusts the most in the world. This has been a very key strategy for a number of our clients because so many professional service providers believe that referrals are serendipity, right? Or, well, we deserve it. We did good work. But you just hope that they come along at the right time. You can harness the power of referrals really intentionally by thinking about what can you provide to those referral partners? How can you value them? How can you elevate them? And think about them as human beings and then go do it on purpose. So I think that's a really great one. And then I know our audience is going to hate this one, but the tagline, the riches are in the niches, is so important. Now, I'm not saying you have to niche down in order to be successful. I mean, we built a horizontal positioning strategy around the environments that our clients are in, and it helped make us more resilient long-term, but it took a long time. And I really battled with myself about niching down instead of wide early on because it probably would have accelerated our success. And so thinking about, maybe I do serve this tiny group of people. It doesn't matter that you could serve everybody, but if this small group needs you so much right now and their pain is worse than other people's, that's where you start. Because most professional service companies do not have the budget to sell and market to everyone, so don't. We officially give you permission to make a decision and go be successful faster.
With professional services companies, often we're not looking at companies that need 500 new clients in a year to be successful. A lot of them don't even need 50 new clients. Sometimes it's just 5 or 10. In that case, something like account-based marketing, which is what sales teams use to sell into major enterprises, can actually be scaled down and used very effectively to bring in more professional services clients. It's highly targeted. There's a blend of one-to-many marketing and one-to-one sales outreach that's done very intentionally, and it tends to help you figure out exactly who your perfect fit clients are, the ones that are going to be delighted by what you do, the ones that are going to stay long term. And also, you need to be looking at marketing to your existing customers, because if you are the kind of organization where 5 or 10 new clients makes a big difference, losing 5 or 10 of your existing clients is also going to be something that has an impact. So make sure that you're spending time and attention on nurturing and keeping the customers that you have, and not just on getting new ones.
You know, I think that's a brilliant point. And what I hope people heard and what they realized from listening to you right there was that targeting, that buyer persona, that decision-making criteria that you decided to focus on, put strategic focus on, actually has a direct connection to what tactics will work for you the best. There is no one size fits all. There might be a company where email marketing is the manna from heaven that they prayed for. And then there might be another professional services company in their exact industry where it won't work at all because of who they are uniquely suited to serve and to sell to. And so those buyer personas are critical. And you did sneak in there knowing your numbers. We do see that a lot, where people feel like they need so much business. But if you calm down, that is only one new customer every month or one new customer every other month. It's a game changer to calm down and implement that strategic focus around the right activities, the right tactics, and the right metrics, because it's not everything. And I think that clarity is just so on point.
And also, when you have a need to bring in, a small number of highly qualified clients, get really good at optimizing your sales process, because that's actually going to be just as important as starting to bring in a whole bunch of new people to talk to. You need to be able to close the ones that are coming into your pipeline. So anything that marketing can do to enable sales and to help accelerate and increase the closing, that's absolutely gold.
That's right. They shouldn't be looking at it separately. And removing friction from the selling cycle. Oh my gosh, because we see this probably in this industry more than any of our other clients in B2B, is they'll keep talking. If somebody wants to buy from you now, shut up, give them a contract. But people will keep proving and trying to show, because that's their point of view, and they're not reading, and they haven't proactively thought, how does this person really want to be sold to, and when do I shut up?
Yes. Stop selling past the close.
Yes.
Remember, you have, if you're doing it right, years and years to show all the additional value that you have. Pull all the tricks out of the bag, wow them over and over and over again. Don't try and dump it all into one discovery call.
Oh, so well said. Okay, so I want to shift into two of my favorite ones. And we talk a lot about brand in a lot of our episodes, but it means something very specific in professional services, because oftentimes brand is so personal. It is important in professional services to build trust and to communicate, whether it's likability or expertise, but use the eyes. They process information 60,000 times faster. And that can help you communicate your value, because people will not always buy from the best, but they will always buy from the best at removing fear. So brand is so important, and I think people get really scared of brand, or they don't understand it, and so they accidentally look mom and pop, and nothing erodes trust like being a smart person that doesn't realize they don't look smart.
Yes, this is one that I work with consultants around a lot, because they're smart and they're like, I can figure out how to build a website. You're smart enough to hire somebody who can make you look the way that you need to look online. Just because you can put words on a page and pick a template, you're just undercutting your entire brand authority if you don't put the same kind of thought and intentionality into building your own professional brand that you would put into the professional service that you're offering to your clients.
Absolutely. And that parlays, I had said it's a 1-2 punch. For me, it parlays into the concept of the social CEO, because I think out of all of the clients that we've done branding for, this is the one where you so frequently see the personal archetype of the founder embedded as the archetype of the organization, even if they've grown beyond being a solopreneur or just 2 or 3 partners or something like that. You have a tendency to see that personality. And brand in this environment is not just about your website or not just about your color scheme, but it's about all of the touch points and that reputation. So as an example, in professional services, being a thought leader can be really, really important, and social media is a wonderful place to leverage this. But guess what? You don't get to abdicate responsibility. This is not a place where you can just delegate to somebody and then never look at it. It needs to be you. It needs to be the people on your team. Humans believe humans. And so being a social CEO, allowing you and your team of experts to have a real voice in today's world is super, super critical. And for professional service companies, this is a very valuable aspect of your brand, and one that you should not ignore just because you're not comfortable in front of the camera.
It's a very good point around often professional services companies starting as one person, and then it's 10 people, and then it's 30 people. It's important to recognize that only the elements of your brand that are scalable beyond you are the ones that are going to survive. So you've got to really get serious about, am I the face and the voice of my brand forever? Am I bringing in other people? So your point being a social CEO, absolutely a fantastic place to start, but bringing in other members of your team, your employees. Don't be the only one that folks can trust. You need to make sure that people trust your brand as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And there does need to be strategy behind it. So important, because there will be a point, we've gone through that, where I was the face and the brand, and now my brand is my brand. It's this separate little, I'm just one person, right? But the company has superseded that. And then other thought leaders are rising up. You know, we're now partners in all of this, which is so much more fun. And we're elevating other team members to do the same thing. And we will continue to do that. That will be a part of how we scale and grow. And I love that. But it is a great example. And you bring up such a good point about, go ahead and put yourself out there, but be ready to change and evolve and make sure that it is scalable. Absolutely.
And that actually brings up another piece around branding. As you grow, are you getting the right people onto your team? And that has to do with talent and employer branding, which we've been talking about a lot lately, because our clients keep coming to us and saying, hey, we're doing great. Thanks for helping us grow. Now we need more people. Yeah. So that's a problem that's a good one to have, but it's one that you want to tackle early, and making sure that you have aligned core values, you understand who you're hiring and why, because of how they're going to help elevate your brand as a whole and attract the next right talent and the next right talent.
It's such a great point. It is a predictable break. The second you solve your revenue and growth problem, that is the next break, assuming that they've got profitability and cash flow nailed down. But anyways, there's a couple predictable breaks. So I'm going to bring this full circle for the final one. Early on, we had talked about selling value, and we talked about that feeling of, selling your smarts, right? I love helping companies to turn something intangible into something tangible. There's a huge difference between conceptually talking about value and how you're going to figure it out and what transformation you're going to create, versus having a repeatable process with what feels like concrete deliverables. It is a game changer for trust and for confidence, and for a client to say, oh, I understand that. So for us, as an example, it's the difference between saying, oh, we're going to figure out your positioning strategy, to we deliver a brand message playbook.
Yes.
There's very different. One is easy to understand, and we can show examples and tell very specific visual stories around what happened because of these tools, versus, I hope you believe me because I'm really smart and I'm using jargon you don't really understand.
And every tangible deliverable that you create is a marketing asset.
Yes, absolutely. So any opportunity to shift your thinking, your delivery into something predictable and to use a language that people really understand, and this is important, are capable of receiving. And I don't mean an understanding, I mean an asset is absolutely important and can really truly act as a differentiator to you in action and increase the perception of your professionalism and your expertise compared to your competitors. Well, that was fun. Any final thoughts? I think we covered like the big points that I really wanted to make. Any final encouragements for professional service companies?
I would simply say that if you're a professional services company, the better you get at marketing and messaging, the easier it is for your best customers to tell other people about what you do and get that message right. So investing in the right marketing messaging and the right marketing strategy can help you grow not just through your word of mouth channels and through your referrals, but through all the avenues that you can reach your target market.
I love it. All right, you guys, thank you so much. We would love to hear the nuggets that you're getting out of this, or if you've got some really great examples and want to showcase your work, send them to us. We would love to use you guys as examples on the show. So if you liked what you heard, hit that subscribe button. We love you guys, and thank you so much for your support. We'll see you next week. Onward and upward.